lately these times, there's been what I like to call medieval renaissance. There's been people getting interested into medieval stuff, mainly because of shows like Game of Thrones, The Witcher, all kinds of that. And the problem is when people get interested into medieval, they get a little bit absorbed by the myths. We have a lot of fake stuff and myths about medieval times. And one of the biggest myths, where there is the biggest stupid ideas and myths, is armored fighting. So that being said, first, your perception about armored fighting is probably wrong. When I say armored fighting, people fighting in armor, what image comes to your mind? A, like a sword working something, or B? Who says A? Who thinks armored fighting looks like this? 1, 2, 3, 4. Who says B? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that was a bit of trick. So, the ones who choose B are correct. Armored fighting is not so much somebody just swinging a sword or a mace, but rather 90% of the time it ends up like a strange wrestling match where they grapple each other on the ground. And there's a very important reason for that. What I'm about to do is a little bit dangerous. Do not try this at home, but right. So I grabbed this kitchen knife and this apple from the kitchen right there. So you can see there's no trick, it's not protected. What happened there? Well, it might shock you, and this is a big myth we have in our culture, but armor does work. As you can see, this gentleman is not very fazed by this word that's being delivered to his body. Armor works. We have this conception that armor can be slashed with sword, maybe a katana. We've seen this hundreds of times, just the katana going and cutting. Or the other thing, we've seen arrows penetrating an armor, crossbow bolts penetrating an armor. That is absolutely a myth. Steel, blades, no, you just seen it. And this is not even real armor. This is fake armor. It's half the thickness of a real armor. What about mobility? Yes. So the other big myth is people think, okay, so maybe the armor protects a lot, but the person inside it cannot move, of course. You gotta compensate. An armored knight is slow and clumsy, and once he falls on the ground, he's done for. And there's also this fantastic myth where people believe that knights had to be mounted on their horse with a crane. Wonderful. What is actually the fact about this? What is about mobility? Well, here's the fact. Oh yeah, I can see he's definitely struggling to get off the ground. He's so clumsy, he cannot move. Armor does not limit mobility. I mean, if it limited mobility, people would not use it. You need to move on a battleground. You need to defend your life. So, how can we know how armored fighting works? We have to grab the myths, dismount them, disassemble them, and from that extract the facts. The facts is that armor is impervious to bladed weapons and almost all projectiles. I put almost because obviously if you get hit by a 500-kilogram rock, armor doesn't do anything. It's not indestructible, of course, because after all it's steel. At some point it's going to be damaged. And the second fact, as we've said before, armor doesn't limit mobility too much. So from those facts, we can establish how to fight in armor. The first idea, we're going to extract ideas from the facts and learn. The first idea is, if armor is impervious, maybe you should just attack where there is no armor. I mean, I have my arm covered, but what about here? Right. You see this gentleman wearing German armor, which is beautiful. I would give a lot of money to have that. But even this so beautifully done and masterly crafted armor has gaps. The first one is obvious. You need to have the eye slits to see. I need to see what's going on. This one, I don't need to explain what happens with this one, right? This one is a little bit more tricky. This one is the armpit. The armpit is where a major vein goes in, and the shoulder socket goes in. And it is a very difficult point to armor because you need to move the arms around. So if you get stabbed here, you probably cannot use the arm anymore. So it's another common point to attack. That's the first idea. The second idea is, okay, so knives, swords, arrows, crossbow bolts do not work. Why not use something else? We humans are very creative, especially for killing other persons. So, option A, penetrate the armor. Use a wall hammer. Just like the hammer you have in your house, just a little bit more spicy, more aggressive. Option B, use a weapon that ignores completely the armor. Now this weapon you would strike at some certain points in the armor to dent it, and the person would attack the head, would probably attack the lungs. That way the person gets seriously damaged. Option B is a little bit more tricky. You have to aim for places where a bone will probably be under. Here, the knee is definitely a big point. And the third idea we can get from what we've established before is, if armor doesn't limit mobility, why not get some armor? What is the impedance other than money? As you can see, Mr. Knight here, this is a movie, this is of course not real, but it's done in a realistic way. Look at this gentleman right here. He just got stabbed in the chest with just a small piece of steel covering his body, just like I have here, which doesn't cost much. This gentleman would still be alive, but he didn't got some armor. Not getting some armor means you'll probably die. Fighting armor without armor is like trying to fight Mike Tyson, missing one arm. It's not fair. So, from those facts, we can imagine how armored fighting works. The first idea is that between two armored opponents, you get lucky, you do some kind of technique, or you just get very lucky and you hit a gap, just as we see here, right? Or you maybe use some technique. But sometimes this doesn't happen. It's rare to happen. It happens 10% of the time. 90% of the time what happens is this. At some point, of course, you're not damaging the other person. So at some point you have to just get in and pin him to the ground. He's still human. So if you pin him to the ground, and as we see here, he's pointing the dagger towards the visor. That's why armored fighting 90% of the time ends in a strange wrestling match. Because there's no way to finish it without a strange wrestling match, unless you have an anti-armor weapon. And finally, I'd like to show a small practical demonstration. It's a small match where it was not done with real weapons. We don't want to kill each other. We like each other. So it's going to be between opponent A. So you can see here he's wearing the flange mace, a very effective anti-armor weapon, and a big shield, and a German armor. But he's not very expert in fighting. He just has begun, right? And opponent B. Opponent B is wearing a buckler, which is a small shield, and a sword. Not exactly the best anti-armor weapon. But the thing is, this guy knows how to fight properly. And we're going to see that technique does a big difference, right in this video. Right, so we see this gentleman is trying to smash him with the mace, but the floor is slippery. That could happen in real life. Notice what he will do. He sees the mace as a problem. He takes it away and he throws it. And he pulls a knife. Later, he's going to recover the mace and he's going again to attempt bashing him in. But he's not being effective and the other goes for the grapple because he knows that if he gets hit by the spike, he's probably done for. After some time of grappling, I cut the video down and I edited it. Notice what happens here. That's the end of the match. That's my hand declaring that this person is dead right now. So what happened here is they grappled and this gentleman has managed to fit his sword under his neck where there is no armor. So that's way. And he has superior weapons. He had a big shield and a big mace. But it doesn't matter if you don't have the right technique. And that's what I wanted to express today. Armored fighting is not so much about bashing one each other wildly as you have seen, but it's more about technique. Medieval people were probably too superstitious. They had weird ideas, but they were not stupid. They were as intelligent probably as we are right now. And they designed a lot of things, like armor. And that will be all that I have time to present.